For most adults, learning is not high on their personal agenda, in spite of all the evidence that unlearning and learning is critical to success in this periods of uncertainty. How do I know this? I have seen it in top business schools where most of the students remain disinterested, worried only about meeting attendance norms, obtaining good grades, or doing projects that will improve their CV. The situation gets worse in corporate training programs, which are treated by many as a welcome break from work, if at all they show up for the sessions. And even if we consider self-initiated programs on online courses, the rate of completion is most abysmal, single-digit percentages on an average. When I ask managers how much time they invest on learning new things that are not connected to their immediate jobs or KRAs, more than 2/3 do not spend even an hour a week on building new capabilities. No one is learning.
Welcome to Value, a podcast where gurus from Global Gyan Academy help you create competitive advantage in your career. Learn how you can win in the future of work and uniquely design your career from those who have succeeded and failed at it. Now here's your host, Srinivasa Adyapalli from Mumbai.
No one is learning. What is the problem? Where is the problem? Is it inadequate awareness about the importance of learning or the risks of not learning? I would be surprised if that were the case, given all the visible changes around us in business, technology. Forget growing one's career, even staying where you are would not be possible without new capabilities. Is it that our learning system is insufficient or archaic and does not meet the needs of the future? That could possibly be true. The education industry, and in particular the executive education industry, has not really changed much. But there are many avenues available, and we are not only dependent on the formal education sector, so that can't be the big excuse. Do we have a resource problem? Not enough money or time available to invest in learning? Money, I don't think, is a problem, because if you look at adults' earnings, what they have to invest in learning is a very small percentage of their annual salary. And organizations spend a lot more money on HR interventions that are less critical or valuable than learning. So it's clearly not money which is the problem. Time could probably be a major issue, particularly in Indian organizations. Every manager claims to be overworked and cannot find the time to develop for the future. When the present itself is a challenge, who thinks too much about the future? But let's face it, very few people learn because they want to learn. Most of our life, we have learned because it was seen as an input to a desired outcome. And the measurement of that outcome, measurement of the learning, was evident to us in the form of marks or grades, then admission to colleges, and then being shortlisted for job interviews. In spite of all the hoopla about not caring about grades and percentages, it is in fact this measurement of learning that leads to self-awareness and motivating an investment of time and money, both by the students and by their parents, towards learning. Unfortunately, the measurement of learning almost disappears in one's adult or professional life. Just look back at your own experience in the last few months or even years. How many times has your boss told you explicitly what you are not good at? I'm not referring to those bosses who are always screaming, "You good for nothing." That's not feedback. It's just an expression of frustration. I'm talking about a conversation that goes deep into discussing what you're weak at. Maybe something like, here's what's wrong with you, the way you do things or the way you're thinking, and here's what you must do to change or improve yourself. My experience is that we all shy away from doing it. In fact, there's a whole culture that is built around don't give negative strokes or feedback. Convert it into positive language. Focus on strengths, not weaknesses. So the boss is expected to say, oh, you're doing all these great things and more great things. And by the way, you may want to improve these one or two things. The problem is that the listener is only hearing the first part and ignoring the second part. With this mollycoddling method of feedback, the outcome is that individuals are not aware of where they stand. And this awareness gap is felt mostly in the so-called soft skills, the managerial competencies and behaviors that are critical for career development. It's easy to build self-awareness about functional or technical skills because you get immediate feedback from the context. You can either code in a certain language or not. Your financial accounts stand up to scrutiny or not. You know how to use a social media platform or not. Therefore, we can see greater interest amongst professionals to learn functional or technical skills because the outcomes are obvious. But that's not the case with competencies like influencing or managing people or strategic thinking. Take communication, for instance. Everyone knows how to make a PowerPoint presentation and you can all go and speak in a meeting or on a conference call. We know how to communicate. What's the problem? The issue is that we don't know if we are good at it and where we stand vis-a-vis the expectations for the next level of career. There is no obvious feedback or measurement. Yeah, we might find that our customer has not bought the product or we were unable to convince our leaders about a proposal. However, it's not easy to establish that cause effect. We will always find excuses about, the product was overpriced or leaders are biased. Rarely does a person say to oneself, I couldn't make the sale because I made a crappy presentation. I was really unable to persuade the customer about the value of my product. Or when a manager gets a poor score in the ESAT, employee satisfaction survey, nobody says, I'm poor at coaching and did not do enough to motivate my team. The problem is that the impact of these skills and their presence or the absence is felt with considerable lag. It might take months or even years of being a poor boss to impact your attrition rate. And even the ESAT score shows up once a year. Self-awareness is extremely difficult when it comes to these skills. And there isn't good enough measurement. Therefore, the only realization can happen through feedback from someone who knows you reasonably well, who observes you through multiple instances of behavior. You need someone to show you a capability mirror. Who is this person? In a professional environment, this is your boss, the only one who can provide this feedback. If the boss does not give you this insight, you don't really know whether you are good or bad at that capability. You didn't get that promotion. It's easy to blame someone and say, in this organization, you can only get ahead if you suck up to the boss or to the HR people. My talent is not respected at all here. We find all these excuses because the boss didn't or couldn't tell you the truth during the appraisal. On the other hand, the typical boss tries to make you feel good. I really like the way you work and you're a very valuable resource to this team. But the problem with the HR folks and the normal curve. I tried my best to get you promoted, but not this year. They pass the blame on to someone else. This happens because the boss is mostly incapable of good quality assessment. I think most managers suck at assessing others and providing honest feedback about what they must change. And this is true not just for first-time managers. I think even many VPs and CXOs are extremely poor at assessing others. So what happens to learning in such an environment? It is a corporate burden. The individual is not self-aware, nor is there any measurement. And therefore, there is no urgency to learn, to build capabilities. The organization, the HR and the leaders create learning interventions, but it is not so effective because the learner is not motivated. It is a pain, one more extra thing to do. It's almost like, I don't even know why I'm being asked to take this training. I'm so good. That's what my boss told me recently. So we're in this vicious cycle that for years, bosses haven't provided honest feedback to their teams. So individuals don't have a fair sense of their capabilities, and then they continue to pay this forward. How can we correct this? Undoubtedly, managers must get better in evaluating capabilities and providing development feedback. And we can use simulations and other benchmarks to build measurability for greater self-awareness in the so-called soft skills. But these are long-term solutions and cannot be changed overnight in any organization. The obvious but extremely difficult answer is that each of us as individuals must change. Given all the external change and uncertainty, I think it is safe for any of us to say that I probably suck at everything that will be essential for future, and therefore I need to learn everything. That is a liberating thought. If I admit that I need to get better, then I take charge of my development. And as I learn, I improve my ability to reflect on my own capabilities and build better self-awareness. This further builds my motivation to learn. The only way to break out of this vicious cycle in the short term is for individuals to say, I need to learn. How can organizations and leaders help this process? I think it is time for leaders, HR teams, all of us to change the language of development. I would urge that let's change our tone dramatically when it comes to giving feedback about capabilities and the importance of learning. Let your team members not treat learning as a performance reward or an optional tool for some unknown future benefits. Give them a virtual slap in the face right now. Every time you speak, it must be like a slap in the face that if you are not learning, if you are not building your capabilities, you are not relevant for the future. I think it is better to give that slap in the face right now than handing out pink slips later.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Value. Visit our website globalgyan.in and subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can also download the Global Gyan app to get additional content, learning and mentoring by the gurus at Global Gyan. Do tune in to our next episode.